And we're back. Happy New Year, 2023. Photo Buzz. Yeah, and we're starting off the new year with a bang. We got our longtime friend in photography, a well-known, well-respected, and qualified photographer. His name is Sam Sciarrino. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
That's good. It's good to hear. Yeah, I'm doing great down here in sunny Costa Rica. And John Butler's over in the Arctic, above the Arctic Circle.
Pretty much.
And Sam, you're down in Toronto. And isn't it amazing technology? So anybody who's been around for a decade or more knows Sam's brother, Leo, who's owned Custom Color Labs since I got into photography. And I just a quick I'll tell a quick intro, quick start on how I sort of remember you, and going way back. I remember I saw you speak at several events, and I had you speak at an Inferno. I think that was around 2015.
I would say so, something like that. Yes.
Yeah. No, I saw you came up to a branch meeting up for the PPO up in Sudbury, Ontario, and also saw you speak at the PPOC in Ottawa one year. And you were just a young guy. You were just a young lad, just in there, but you had a lot of energy, and you had a lot of style, a lot of flair, and a lot of shoot from the hip sort of style. I don't know if you remember those days.
Yes.
But when it came to shooting weddings, you may or may not remember this, but I remember we were somewhere doing an actual bride on location somewhere, and there was overhang countertops, sort of like these here, but they were lower. And you had the bride leaning in there, and you were shooting from behind there. It made no sense at all, but it looked really good. But you had this real, youthful flair and artistic approach to shooting that stuff, working with the environment, working with what you had available to you. And that really stood out, especially in those days, because in those days, as you remember in the 80s and particularly in the early 90s, before photojournalism sort of took its foothold and started, the industry was kind of more rigid and stoic, which is a good thing, because I really value, that sort of quality approach to very precise lighting and posing and all of that stuff. But here Sam comes along, and he's just this young guy full of energy, full of beans, and doing something totally different and showing us a whole new way. Fast forward to the Inferno, where you spoke mostly on lighting.
Yes.
And it seemed to be the flip side. So, you know what I mean? Your lighting is extremely precise now, and or artistic, and or very elegant, a lot of strength. It's like as if every image is like an award-winning caliber because of those. Those are the things that typically judges look for when you look at print competitions. So I'm sort of putting this in perspective of the decades with which I've known you personally and or have seen you speak at several events, and I see the evolution. All that to say, I like to start this conversation off by talking about your evolution, sort of going back to the early days, and maybe we can talk a little bit about what it's been like, what it's like now for you as a professional. I'm assuming you're still doing weddings. I'm not sure, but whatever you're up to. So
Yes.
let's just jump into that, and we got a lot of other questions too, and just see where it goes. Any thoughts
Okay. As far as weddings are concerned,
or anything, families even,
I
or
mean, right now, yes, I'm still doing weddings. I'm still doing family portraits. I'm doing executive style portraits, and I've had calls to do your executive as we knew it, boardroom type portraits, which is
Mhm.
very lucrative. And in theory, there's very limited people that are still approaching that. And of course, we're doing headshots that are based on I would call it, the proper wording to it would be more a minimalism style portrait, which is being used for LinkedIn and so on.
Right.
I don't like calling them headshots. I'd rather call them portraits of some kind. I just don't believe in short words, things like shoot and headshots and
Uh-huh.
things like that, because I think my theory, and throughout the years and being trained by various people, and one of them is Tibor Horvath that I worked with for 10 years, and
Mhm.
I bought his company when he passed on, and knowing people, other masters of photographers in Canada, the United States, and mixing up a lot of their theories, is that we have to try to keep things at a certain level, even with the wording that we're using. So, in order to give it value or perceived value. So that's very, very important to me. And that, when it comes to bridal portraits or anything like that, they are
Right.
portraits, or they are fine art, or they're heirloom portraits, or whatever they are. They're not just blow ups and shoots and things like that. And that will help, it'll help the bank account, because things will have perceived value in the wording.
That's interesting. It's words are powerful. I don't know if you know the definition of the word. If you look back to the Norse, the Vikings, they spelt it Wyrd, and that word means destiny. And I really believe that the choice of words is important, and I got to pay more attention to that. What you're saying, and that's just one component. That's just one foundation of what you're talking about, right?
Very small, yes.
Yeah, but it's important. Obviously, it's something you value. We can all be reminded of that. That you don't like headshots. Yeah. You
I don't
got
like
guys
the
like,
word headshots.
yeah.
Um,
I gotta admit, I've always been a little uncomfortable with it. It just sounds something.
I'm just trying to, maybe I'm devil's advocate. I'm just trying to, you get a phone call and say, listen, I'm looking for a headshot. And the way I perceive it is, you're looking for a low end image.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now I have to try to convince this person and say, you're looking for a minimalism style portrait. Well,
Right.
what does that mean? Well, it's very plain. It's subtle. It's lit very well. It's meant to sell. And basically, what I'm doing is saying it's not this, it's this,
Mhm.
and this is what it's going to cost, right? So I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, okay, can I qualify this person at that level, or am I trying to, get into an argument over a price, over just in the way it's wording? Don't forget that
Right.
most people are trying to downplay things, and we want
Hmm.
to upplay things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're obviously trying to educate the clients and or leads who call, and if they're not up to par and or educated or are aware of where you stand on all this, you do your pitch, obviously, right?
Yeah, I'm doing my pitch, and hopefully it sounds different from anywhere else they call.
So you're well positioned. I'm going to assume you're in Toronto. You've been around a long time. You're well respected. You have the Horvath name behind you, so people have a certain brand awareness, brand knowledge. And have you maintained that momentum in your career as an independent, self-employed photographer, still in the game, as I am, as John is? I've noticed a lot of changes, and I can go on, John can go on, but I want to hear from you. What do you? Any thoughts on that? I'm sure it's something
Have
you've been thinking
I,
about.
as far as my momentum is, I chose my momentum. I decided to go start changing my models I'm going to say started 20 years ago, where I started changing my models from a high volume to a mid volume to a high volume. I'm low volume, sorry.
Oh, really? Eh?
Type operation. And basically, I weeded out all the bottom end so that
Wow.
way I wasn't doing 2 and 3 in a day. Part of
Mm-hmm.
it is I had a young family to deal with, and you're starting to do things with kids at the same time, and you might have had too much volume. And then at the end of the day, I was measuring this up and say, I have X amount of employees, I have so much volume, but is it really profitable?
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the day, that's what I was looking at. How much extra money am I really making by grossing, let's say, $1 million a year, or can we gross 500,000 or 300,000 and be as profitable instead of paying staff, paying bigger locations, and so on and so forth? And what
Mm-hmm.
does that do to our quality level of the product? So that's when I started to say, oh, you know what? It's all based around me anyway. I'm going to lower this volume and lower the expenses and start to choose what I want to do instead of what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Interesting.
been my model now for it's been 20 years, and it's worked. And at the same time, as things were changing in the marketplace, it's actually benefited me. It benefited me because it looked like, wow, I really used my head and I saw it coming. But realistically, I was doing it for other reasons, and I
Uh-huh.
got lucky.
Uh-huh.
I got lucky that it all worked for me, and it's making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It benefited you.
It did.
I'd
It
like to
did.
know more. I'd like to know more about that. How
Yeah.
has it benefited you? It sounds to me like it's sort of like, whoa, this is really working out in my behalf. Didn't anticipate this, but there it is, and it's uh, largely vis-a-vis the changes that have been going on. My assumption is, when I hear you say that, my assumption is that, and also because you've made that decision you made 20 years ago, which is a smart decision to go into the area of quality. There's always a market for quality, and selecting I guess, for lack of a better word, a higher end market. Um, and it sounds like it worked out. What are the benefits that come to mind insofar as how you perceive that? Any other thoughts on
Well,
that?
I can give you little stories from the back. I mean, from the days that it was high volume. You'd run into maybe a competitor, and they would tell you, "Well, listen, today I'm doing um, 10 jobs today, mixed in from um, on-site photography to and so on." And
Uh-huh.
maybe at that point, for me, high volume was doing 3, but I was charging a lot more than they were.
Uh-huh.
My answer to them was, well, your 10, my 3 is worth your 10.
Uh-huh.
So then I figured at that point, um, I still had high expenses at that point, and I thought I'd rather do one and charge more for it by finding the right client, because there is a right client out there, and servicing them well. I mean, we're not talking about trying to, pull the wool over anybody's head. We're talking
No.
about trying to elevate a product to a point where it's perceived value and you can actually get paid for that. So at that point, if somebody's doing a 10, 15, $20,000 wedding to other people, that represents 5, 6, 7, 8 in a day.
Uh-huh.
Don't forget we're in Toronto.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about other areas where that
Yeah.
doesn't come by as easy. But there are jobs that are going on that way. Now, does that mean you have to, be photographing a Saturday, a Sunday, a Tuesday, a Friday night, and all that? No.
Mm-hmm.
So even if
Mm-hmm.
you did one a week or one every 2 weeks, you were doing great.
Mm-hmm.
If your overhead was working and your business model was intact and working fine for that.
Yeah.
So, and that was my aim. That was my aim. That's what I wanted to do, and that's where I went. And I mean, I really didn't feel the pandemic per se, because I was, under control, and I still had workflow that needed to be finished before the pandemic started, and I
Uh-huh.
was finishing them through the pandemic. So although
Nice.
I wasn't shooting because everything was closed down, I
Yeah.
had the odd portrait, the odd backyard party that everybody was spaced apart, let's say.
Uh-huh.
But I was still finishing albums and things like that needed to be done,
Mm-hmm.
which
So
I
you
still
kept,
believe there's a market for. And I mean, most of everything I photographed this year and part of last year, once things opened up, every one of these people want product. So it's not like a digital file only type
yeah,
operation.
digital file only. That seems to be the shoot and burn model that is so pervasive, so popular. And
Yes, it is.
it seems to me you fired all your rockets to go the opposite direction of that in and around the same time that started to become a thing, which is 20, 22 years ago. And what advice would you give, say, a photographer, a serious, dedicated photographer who wanted to really be serious and dedicated to running a professional photography, a professional, I say profitable, money-making photography business, and they were looking at, because everyone's telling them, oh yeah, well, you just got to give digital files only. What advice would you give them?
I mean, that's the market today, and unfortunately, it's there. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to. I'm trying to get rid of that reflection in the background there. It's bugging me. Yeah, let's try rule of third here.
There we go.
It's there. It's not going away anytime soon. But
No.
what all of this? I mean, we got to look at the whole picture and say what's happening today, and in the last couple of years. And I'm thinking that there's a reset button has been hit. There's a lot of people that have left, a lot of people that are trying to get in, and there is people still looking for quality photography. There is no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there an abundance of it? Well, it's hard to say. Things have just opened up now, so we have to wait and see. As far as the digital file only, basically that means to me, I'm going to interpret it my way, and that would say that's a session fee.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that you're giving them anything that is full res, because I don't believe that they should be printing portraits without my name on it and put it on the wall without me putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
So you want full res files, fine. That is a session fee. If it's up to 8x10 or 8x12 file sizes, knock yourself out. But I'm going to say that 90% of the people that come back, they do come back and they do get a product. Part of that is that you want to do the product. Number two is you have to show a product that they're unable to get anywhere. And it doesn't mean, hey, it's a specific album. It means how it's created, how it's edited. Now, everybody's going to say, well, these files are edited ready and you're ready to print. And I'm going to say, well, edited to means what? You put it through some kind of a you put it through something so everything kind of looks the same through Photoshop or Lightroom. At the same time, they're not enhanced, or I'm going to call it retouched. They're just white balance ready to be printed. But once you start tweaking things towards a custom type area, and that doesn't mean distorting things to an extreme, but it just means they are well-tuned portraits or well-tuned images, even candid, and they're done properly and they're sequenced properly, and you're buying a high-quality book that your average client is not able to buy.
Yep.
And anything that a consumer is able to buy right now, because a lot of companies have decided to try to go direct to a client, I won't sell.
Okay.
So, I mean, the album of polka is not something that everybody can buy here other than a professional.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that would be an album to use.
Mm-hmm. What about, do you sell lots of wall portraits or do you
I do. And
people-
right now, I haven't been selling many of the metal prints, and they are readily available at a lot of department stores. And that's one of the reasons. The other one that I stopped selling are canvases.
Really? Eh?
And if I do sell canvases, they are going to be framed like a painting type where
Right.
the department store can't match it.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. So I have to make it different enough that, they go somewhere and they say, well, we don't make that.
Yeah.
right? So it's not about a canvas print. So that way you don't get into an argument. Well, I can buy a canvas at Costco for whatever dollars it is, and you're trying to explain why yours is 4 times more. Well, first of all, it's your file and you worked it,
Yep.
right? So you need a file. You don't have it. And it has to be done properly. And that's just my methods. Now, is it completely correct? It's hard to say, but I'm trying to protect my business at the same time. Anything that we're putting out there, I want it to have a certain look that we've
hmm
worked hard to put together for the last 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, some would say 20, 30 years, that makes you an old poop. Why should I come to you? You're an old guy. I mean, the younger generation might think that. However, I'm not saying that to say that. I'm saying that to say that play the devil's advocate and to say
yeah, I
that
get it. I get it.
you get it, right? You got to stay relevant to the
Well,
market. But what I'm hearing you say is based on some very solid, timeless fundamentals, foundations, and a lot of them are based on the idea that there's something that's going to be highly respected and cherished, like a wall portrait. Now, there's some good observations you made and about the Costco canvases. Have you ever seen a Costco canvas, by the way? It's absolute crap.
I don't pay attention to, and I'm not trying to go after Costco whatsoever. I mean,
No.
they're trying to sell a product, and I get it, and
Yep.
and they're selling to a complete different client. The
Mhm.
unfortunate part is that there are image makers or storytellers out there right now that don't want to be a part of printing. So what they're doing is they probably say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of it for whatever reason it is. Maybe it's too much time to put it together. Maybe they don't feel they're not getting enough, and that all comes down to a business model to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to. It doesn't come down to anything else. So what will happen is this consumer has nowhere else to go other than these few different places, like a department store, like that, to get it done. So however it looks, and it's going to be a lot less money. Now, that might be the right client. And the whole thing is that when you're talking to a client, whether it's emailed by phone, and even though I get initial email contact, and we all do, I try to be able to speak at least on the phone in order to be able to qualify a client
Mhm.
as they're qualifying me,
Mhm.
regardless of age or anything like that. It's about
Yep.
knowledge.
Yep.
And the people that are really interested in investing into photography don't follow that.
No.
The ones that are following, oh look, is this person a great image maker? Oh, they are. Look, they're on Instagram. Well, Instagram doesn't qualify anything.
No.
So just saying.
Yeah.
So you have to qualify them as they qualify you. It's very, very important to treat things as a business and have a good business model that you're following and make it true if you truly want to make a living at it.
Yep. There's that word again, business. I wrote it down here in my notes, business model. I just circled it and you just said it again. Business model, treat it like a business. So I read something a few weeks ago that business is the highest, it's like the highest order of things, so to speak. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but I really believe that. And my own personal observation is a lot of people are afraid to grow and expand and do what needs to be done in order to make the decisions. What you're describing, I mean, when you say a business model, you say, okay, I'm going to have a certain level of quality and I'm going to charge a certain price and I'm going to stand behind that. That scares the hell out of a lot of people. So
For sure, because they don't know what to charge, and that's why they're going that route, and it's
yeah.
become a part-time business in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there's room for them, and they've always been there. It's nothing like it's something new. It's always been there. The thing today, I think, is that we need to. They have to have a direction. You have to have a direction
Mm-hmm.
as far as what you pay your employees, regardless if you have employees or not. What you're paying yourself, and it has to be a certain percentage of the sale. So, how many do you need? How many events do you or projects do you need to photograph per week, per month in order to make your rent pay yourself, pay your car, and all of these things. And
Mhm.
there's a formula, and all you have to do is follow it. It's
Mhm.
There's nothing, nobody's a genius here. Follow the formula. You'll be okay. You know where you're going. If you're not
Yeah.
making the numbers, you know it quickly, and you have to have your foot on the throttle.
Foot on the throttle. Um, you mentioned something earlier about canvases and that, and going back to that for a second. Personally, I think the ideal art piece and the easiest to sell is a canvas which has been masonite mounted on masonite, obviously, with a frame, no glass, no mat. I love that look because it sort of goes along the lines of an oil painting because it's canvas, but it's also not a canvas in the traditional, 2-inch mount without a frame.
Traditional of today.
Yeah, and I just think that's timeless, and I think it's the easiest thing to sell. We got a few of those in our studio. I wish we had more, but we've been really pushing the canvases. Then the canvases we use are very high quality, so we don't do the Costco thing, and they sell pretty good. But if I had it my way, I would just eliminate them as well, or at least push them to the back burner. So what is your ideal? You said you sell them framed. And when you sell them framed, when you quote a cost of a portrait, say a 36-inch portrait, does it automatically include the frame, which is a pricing model that is quite common. And we used to do that years ago, decades ago. We used to do that. You bought a wall portrait and included a frame. Can you just give us a little more detail on how you guys do that?
Most of my framing, as of the last number of years, I'm going to go back even 10 years, have been simple black frames like the one that's behind me, or a silver simple frame with a double mat and a glass. If we were selling what you just described, which is a great idea and has been around a long time, and at one point what was done is they were replicating canvas by using a texture spray, which is not available anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So that image is still available, and that is probably the best way to beat that system, because all we're doing is we're bringing back an image that's looking like a painting, and you're getting rid of the 2-inch backing, which is unnecessary.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've made a lot of money on it, and it was a great deal, just to get away from some of the traditional approaches, meaning, some of these canvases about 10 years ago, I decided to buy a large printer.
Okay.
And the large printer wasn't there to weed out anything as far as the lab was concerned. It was there as an option to sell things at a higher scale. Now, people think, well, if you're doing your own printing, you should be at a lower scale. Now, what I did is I decided, okay, I have this printer. I have it in my office where people could see it. And the way I sold it was, I have this large scale printer. These are fine art portraits on, let's say, Hahnemühle type paper. And I custom print every one of them myself. I sign them myself. They will be named in a frame, something like what's behind me now. And I had that printer paid for within a week.
Nice.
Okay.
Can I ask you which printer?
I bought the 24-inch because I figured most of my portrait sales will be 1620s, 2024s, 2430s. That's where the volume is. And I figured if I had to, if I get anything bigger than that, then I can always send it out to get it done. So in retrospect, maybe I should have bought the larger printer, but I wasn't sure it was going to work. And the larger printer and all of that and the software that went with it was double the money. So I thought, if I need larger prints, I'll buy it. But I found myself doing very well with this 24-inch printer. And as I said, it worked tremendously. Of course, going along with it, we needed a projector that projected the images on the wall, so that way the images looked like they didn't look as big as it sounds when it's only 2024. Well, if you put it on a 9-foot screen, right, it doesn't look that big. because you got a lot of white space around it. So I was able to boost the sales of portraits when people were saying they couldn't even sell 11 by 14 anymore.
Right.
And I was selling them like hotcakes,
Yeah.
and still am.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
you're,
the reason of doing that, that it wasn't there to replace
yeah.
the traditional style C41 printing per se.
Yep. Yeah. So, but you're still funneling everything into the wall portrait sale, which obviously resonates. And if somebody doesn't get it, they'll understand it soon enough and appreciate where it is you're coming from. So are most of your prints then done in house, and are you doing the matted version like in the one behind you, which is very
Well,
art
the
gallery
one
look?
behind me, I printed myself.
Yeah.
So it is a fine art piece printed on that particular image is printed on Hanamill paper,
Mm-hmm.
the water base, and so on. So I
Nice.
mean, it is thicker paper, and it has to have perceived value when you're selling it. You can't be selling just a regular, call it Epson paper. So that's what I do. I use water-based papers, and I use it to tell the story that it is an archival piece. It is a fine art piece, and it's always about perceived value. And when they look at it, they don't usually see it, and you can't easily get it done elsewhere.
No.
And that's the point.
Interesting. That is the point. It's they don't, in my opinion, they don't have to see it. And you probably agree with me. Well, they have to see a beautiful print, but when you explain it to them, you're explaining a high level, almost like museum quality. So people understand that. If you're going to put this on your wall, you want the best.
Yes. If you're going to do that. Hey, listen, not everybody's going to put something on the wall. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But just think, decorating, especially in the last 2-3 years, never mind the last 10, has been a booming business.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you're following a lot of home shows, which I believe you all are, you notice that there's a lot of family pictures on the wall in home shows.
No. You're talking about TV shows?
TV, yes, TV shows, renovations.
All
Part
right.
of this now is they are having family wall picture.
Nice.
Picture wall.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Hey, time to jump back onto that bandwagon. It hasn't gone.
No.
Okay. The only thing is that we have to eliminate is this wanting a digital file and being able to print it on your own.
Uh-huh.
There has to be a difference in the printing.
Yeah.
That means when you're doing a file for them, if they feel that they want to be able to print it themselves, your edited white balance file cannot simulate your custom made file.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be completely different. It has to be paid for.
Interesting. Any particular shows you'd recommend to watch? Because that's an interesting trend to obviously plug into. And the only, like, I never watch TV. We don't have cable, and I prefer not to. But I do watch. I watched a couple of shows when I was in Toronto, staying overnight on our way down to Costa Rica. Blew me away. It's this guy who goes into these smaller restaurants that are struggling and on the verge of bankruptcy. And within 2 days and $10,000, he goes in and remodels them all. I freaking love that. I love that show.
I haven't seen that.
Oh,
Restaurant Impossible, I think it's called.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Oh, I literally start crying. So, but the idea, I think, is somewhat similar when you're talking about decor, because decor plays such a vital part. And a lot of these restaurant owners have a lot of family pride, and they have their pictures on the wall, and it's usually like not very well decorated, and they go in and they fix it all up, and they always maintain that personal angle with the family as part of the decor, but really, really well done. So what shows are you talking about, Sam, and so far?
I don't have names of them per se, but there's about 3 or 4 of them that are on there, and they're all home renovation shows.
Home renovations.
Home renovation shows where they're redecorating.
Uh-huh.
And they go into a house and they gut it and they put it back together. So the family moves out of the house for a month or 2 or whatever it is. Then they come back, the house is redone, and they have family pictures on the wall, brand new kitchens, and so on.
Yeah.
The thing is that I'm watching the show with my wife, so she's looking at the kitchens, and I'm looking at, hey, they put family pictures on the wall. This is coming back, and if they're pushing this,
yeah,
it's time. It's time.
that's
We're
true.
back. It's time to get it together, and really, at the end of the day, we need to photograph to the basic styles that are out there today, because we're decorators in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, we have to do what we have to do. I mean, if everything is light and airy right now, we can't try to sell a low key print, right? So we have to go with what's happening. Although you kind of love it, you like the drama, or whatever it is, we have to kind of, when it's something like that, we have to be able to offer them something that they'll say, I got to have that. And, you know, sell it in threes, sell it in fives, in odd numbers, and really do a work up to a sales idea that works.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's good to hear that that trend is becoming a thing, and I'm wondering if in part it was a sort of linked to the whole COVID thing, and it sort of changed people's mindset in some ways, and sort of modified their values. You know.
I'm not. Well, yes, I would think that it's changing over because of the pandemic, because before the pandemic, we've gone into a very, let's say, on the wedding side of it, very journalistic. And with that, you're not really selling wall portraits. Right. So
No.
I think things have changed a little bit. Things have gone a little bit nostalgic, where family issues are starting to count.
Yeah.
I think,
nostalgic.
Yeah.
That's a good word. I like to use the word vintage.
I'm trying to stay away from that right now.
Vintage and headshots. No, but it's the same idea. And the kids, I find kids love anything vintage. And
okay. So we'll use it then.
Well, you might put nostalgic in the same category under the same umbrella, but the idea is, and I think it's an easy sell, sort of repeating
to the right client. Yes. To the right client. I mean, you have to be able to show it, and you have to create hype, and they have to know that they can't get it elsewhere. And once that's been established, I mean, it's your game at that point.
They can't get it elsewhere. That's a writer downer. Can't, and I know what you're saying there. If you're one of many, you're just a commodity. So
that's right.
Don't be commoditized. Can't get it elsewhere. There's another way to say that. I'm going to think about that one.
Well, just think about it. If you go on to 10 websites that promote weddings, and they're all of the same caliber, let's say, and as you're looking at these images, it's possibly light and airy. Hug, a kiss, a hug, a kiss, a kiss, a hug, and one of them looking at the other, and the other one looking back at the camera, then vice versa. And you know, it's pose A, pose B. So realistically, what I'm thinking here right now is, in order to describe what era we're in 1970s.
Yep.
Right. It's you don't know who you're getting. It's high volume. They're trying to recoup. They're bringing out subcontractors. And it's a very 1970 business model.
Or 1980s. It's like the way they shoot
very
weddings.
Early 80s, if anything. Not late 80s. It started to switch over around 86, 87, where it became more custom. It wasn't in style to have freelancers or, 10 jobs a day. It was in style to know who you were getting. Right now, it's not. So we're very early 80s to late 70s.
Yeah. So the portrait artist motif, you're coming along as somebody who's more than just a photographer. You're there as a decorator. You're almost there as a consultant. You're there as an artiste, somebody who's going to create something.
Right.
You're going to give them the right information and sell them the right product that makes sense. And there's a lot of people that resonate with that. Even if they're on a bit of a tight budget, a lot of people that, if they have strong family values and strong appreciation for the nostalgic, say they got grandparents that they love, they got aunts and uncles, and when you're coming along and saying, look, your family's important, it's worth this money to put on your wall and to decorate, because you're probably going to need to decorate it anyways. Might as well decorate it with something of high value. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
I'm just talking off the cuff here. And
No, it
so,
all makes sense. I mean, there is value to it, not to everybody,
mhm,
not to the young crowd yet, because they really haven't experienced anything like that. But it
yeah,
does change. It does change. It
Yeah,
comes around when things
yeah,
definitely.
become important.
that's very cool. It's good to notice these trends, especially with the decorators and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
John, you got any questions for Sam?
No, I'm listening around. One thing I was curious about, he was talking about with the like shooting burners, the files. How he doesn't give them like you sell them and stuff, but it's got to be different than what you can print for them. I've always been afraid that if I'm going to sell a digital file to a client, and I'm going to give them that to go print somewhere, I still want it to look as great as possible. I don't want them to have just that white balanced one because somebody else is going to see that picture and say, "Oh, who shot that?" If it's not printed very well, and they're going to say, "Oh, that was John A. Butler Photography that shot it," and they're not going to hire me because that print looks crap. So I
Yeah.
still want to give them that as high quality resolution file that I'm going to give them. That was the way I perceived it, because it's still my image out there and my name out there. Whereas you were saying something about you want your file that you're going to print be different than what you give them.
Absolutely. If you, I understand what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I could see that. The only thing is, I really don't want them printing elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So the point to me is, if you want it to be more of a custom look, you have to come through us. I
Hmm.
mean, how much time are you going to spend? I hear, for instance, some people that I've talked to, and you've gone to XYZ studio. Oh yeah, and all the files are edited. There is no way they're going to custom retouch 1,000, 1,500. It would
Exactly.
take them a year.
Yeah.
There's no way.
They
So
go.
what they're actually, what I'm guessing is going on, because I've used some of the outside editors, depending on the volume, is that they lighten everything up and they're putting it through Lightroom through some kind of look
Presets or
that
something.
all
Yeah.
looks the same. Yeah. So to me, that's not custom enhancing. That's just generic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it
like
could
a
be done.
shoot and burn, basically.
It's a shoot and burn, and you're loading up some filters on it. That means it's printable, but it to me that doesn't mean it's custom. To me,
Yeah.
it's just printable.
Yeah.
This image on the screen, can you guys see it?
Not yet. Yeah. I have to bring it in, I guess.
I don't see it.
It's not brought in yet.
Oh, I've been showing his images throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
And
I saw it
guess,
down there, but it wasn't out on the screen.
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought it was shown while Sam was talking. I don't
No.
know.
I remember that day like yesterday.
And I've always been under that perception too. If you want to sell it, you have to show it. Like I have 20 by 30 canvases and prints on my walls here at my studio because that's what I want to sell. And 9 times out of 10, they'll buy it because they see it and I want one of those. But if you're just trying to explain it to them, they're gonna go for the smaller one because they think it's too big when you describe it.
So
8 by 10.
do you want me to talk about this print or?
Well, I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking this is a very strong, very well done image. It's. I don't want to compare to others, but it's in the realm of like the Sal Cincatas, and a lot of your style too is a little bit of the Montreal couple. What's their name? Classic portraits.
Simone?
Simone, yeah.
Simone?
You know, we're talking about that realm. You're all in the same category.
Couvreau, there's that one guy Couvreau that does really well too.
Don't know Couvreau.
Well, the Simone's, Simone, sorry. Simone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Well, good friends of mine. I haven't spoken to him in the last while. They have a fantastic style.
Mhm.
And, I think they cherish a lot, if I remember correctly, a guy named Don Blair, which I do too. We were very good friends with Don Blair, as they were. The Simones, I mean, they're incredible.
Yeah.
In their portraiture. I know that they don't do as much weddings as they used to in the past, and they do incredible portraits. And I'm going to say that probably there's some similarities in the lighting styles, not exactly 100% because we're all individuals, but that could be coming from people like Don Blair.
Yeah.
Al Gilbert, Don Blair, and so on. Right?
Don Blair. What was his nickname?
Big Daddy.
And Al Al Gilbert, who's from your hometown, where
Yes.
you are. He was one of my favorites.
He was incredible.
So,
I mean, there are a lot of other masters out there that, you know, especially in the U.S. side of it. In Toronto, we had the Al Gilberts, and we had Tibor Horvath. You know, they were the leaders in Toronto many years ago, and a lot of the Horvath clonies, let's call it, people like me, have done very well, and there's a few of us. In the U.S., you know, you have your Leon Canemer, Don Blair, Frank Kirchio, you know, and so on, that are Monty Zucker. You can't forget Monty Zucker. People like that, you know, they put a lifetime into these industries to bring it where it was. And, you know, and I think a lot of us are trying to carry it forward from there.
Well, I hope so. When you say a lot of us, I hope so. I hope it doesn't become a dying vintage.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because somebody has to photograph it, and everybody's style has a style. And the only thing is to be able to qualify the client and get the right client that serves you.
Yeah, there's some really good points. Really, really good points. And what's old is new.
What's old is new, yeah. And I've always been a traditionalist with my with the products I use, the cameras I use, the lighting styles I use. I mean, I use very strong fundamentals as some of the other masters, and it's very important to me to try to give a high quality product, and that's my aim. It's not about trying to find an easy way. Before I leave any kind of event or portrait session, I kind of go through the whole thing and make sure that I get everything, that I rotate it, because it's not just about going out there and photographing and say, hey, I have this tool and I'm going to do this. It's about being able to sell it. So you shoot to sell, but at the same time, you have to create enough variety to sell it. And you have to be consistent over and over again to be able to sell a product in order to get perceived value and enough money for that product, for the amount of effort that you're actually putting into it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, throughout the years, you know, it wasn't just about the business part of it. You know, I tried to give back through lectures, and so I have traveled all over the world to do that, which, you know, and that happened through, you know, starting off as a wedding photographer and people wanting to see what people are doing. And that's fantastic. It was fantastic for me, where I was able to go to Europe, and I mean, London and Italy and Greece and China, and of course all over the United States and Canada to photograph this. And that just gives you the drive to move forward and keep going. I mean, with the companies, as I was saying about traditionalists, you know, I've always used the same labs. I use the same album companies, and I've been loyal to the camera brands that I use. And you know, that's what brought me to be an ambassador for like a company like Album Apoca. You know, and I've been an ambassador for them for many, many years. And or Nikon, I've been ambassador for them for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's about the quality, and I guess all of us as businesses, you can't forget what is the source of your business, even if you're looking for other things to replenish some of the new styles. So I know that there are other marketing avenues that a lot of these companies want to do, but you don't get rid of what your source is, right? So for us, for me, the portrait in the weddings is the main source. But do I want to do other things? Absolutely. I want to do projects where in landscape images that I'd love to sell as decorator pieces. Is that going to bring me the same amount of money as a wedding or a portrait right now? No. But if I can put it all together and enjoy what I'm doing, I'm good.
Awesome. Have you gone mirrorless yet?
I have. I did. I went into a Z7. I'm actually waiting for a new one to come out. It's rumored. Don't know when. Well, that would be whatever it would be, a Z8 or a Z850 mirrorless equivalent. And I'm really interested in that. I'm waiting for that to come out. That should be hopefully coming out soon. Nobody said anything. It's all just rumors. But I figured, I'm just thinking, it's should be coming out shortly. Right now, I'm still using the DSLR, which is, I mean, to me, it's a feel. What you see is what you get. It's there, and I truly believe that there's a purpose to both styles. I like them both. Do I like one over the other? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I like them both.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about the analog way, especially if you're shooting in a dark studio. The DSLR just operates better. You can see what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Where the digital is better on location and things like that, and street photography, smaller and all that.
Sure.
Cool. Final closing questions as we wind down. What would Sam tell his 22-year-old self? Anything come to mind?
What I would tell myself 22 when I was 22?
Yeah. If you went back in time.
If you had Sam 22 in front of you, you'd say, "Hey, Sam, here's some advice for you." What would you tell that guy? That's a tough question, eh?
It's a very tough question because now you're asking me where I went wrong and what I should have done.
Bingo. I got to say something on that because I remember the first time I saw a photographer seminar, and it was Stephen Rudd in 1987.
Yes.
And I loved his passion, and I loved the fact that he was very sincere. And then I got into the whole thing, and I always thought to myself, I want to hear where they screwed up, because if it's all shine and polish, there's something wrong. So I always pushed, and I kind of got that from Steve. He was very genuine. He had a bit of an ego, but he was very, very good instructor.
I was friends with him for a long time, even though we were competitors.
Yeah.
If I was booked up on a date, I would send it to him and vice versa.
Yeah.
Stephen was, an excellent photographer. He motivated a lot of people. We had a lot of fun in competitions. It was great. And we would talk before the competition, we would talk after, and we would hang around during the judges because we were both nuts. But if I had to say something, and I'm not going to speak on Steve's behalf on this because, he had a different business model altogether from mine. I would think if I had to go back to 22, I wouldn't change much, but what I would have changed and what I've always thought, and I still believe today, which I went there and it took me years to get there, is I believe in keeping the business models small and profitable. And the one way to explain it is you can't turn a ship that quickly, but you can turn a speedboat very quickly, because things change, and they do every 7 to 10 years. We have style changes. We have economy that changes on us. And if you are highly leveraged, you can get yourself into trouble very quickly.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could say is, let's say you're running a business model that you need to collect $20,000 a month, per se. And one month you're collecting 15, the other month you collect 18, but you're supposed to be doing 20. And one month you collect 25, the next month you collect 10. And it's because of the time of year. You can be minus 50, minus 75 in no time. And because your expenses are very high that you need that, you can get yourself into trouble very quickly. Banks don't like financing photographers. Photographers finance themselves.
Yeah.
So my feeling is to stay under control and keep your overhead very low. That way you can dictate what you're able to do, what you want to do at any given time. And you're not doing something because you're forced. You're doing something because you want to.
Yeah. And that's good. Keep it simple, keep it small, start from the kitchen table, grow incrementally. I so believe in what you're saying, and I understand it. And people seem to sometimes just think, well, if we just throw a lot of money at something, then that's going to make it grow. And if you don't learn the lessons in or install the right fundamentals, you're putting yourself at risk, especially if you're highly leveraged, like you said.
Well, if you're highly leveraged and you're trying to do volume, and then all of a sudden you have a situation where interest rates are going up and the quantity is drying up, and you need X amount of dollars and X amount of volume, and it's not there, it won't take you very long to be out. So that's my feeling. I think you want to be able to control it, and you're the one that's going to control it.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So what's your favorite movie?
I have a few of them. I'm going to say the one that brings out emotion to me are usually the Rocky movies.
Really?
And Maverick.
Oh, haven't seen that yet.
Maverick.
Yeah,
the new Top Gun one. Yeah.
I'm just looking at. I have a lot of favorite movies, but the ones that kind of play with your emotions.
Yeah.
Or that I found, those type of movies usually get me.
Rocky's always got some motivational aspect to it too.
Especially, yes, and regardless if he won or lost, but at the end of the movie, I'm going to say one part where he calls out his wife after the end of that one fight, and he was battled hard. Adrian plays with your emotion.
Yeah.
Things like that. And the Maverick movies, especially the latest one, seems to have the same kind of feel at certain points. And that has to do, it's playing with adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's all about the adrenaline part.
Yeah. You're talking about Top Gun, right?
Top Gun, yeah.
Yeah, the new one, yeah. Well, there's even in Rocky, there's that one scene out in the street where he's talking to his son. Blaming everybody else. That whole scene gets me every time. You can't blame everybody else. You got to blame yourself.
Right. So there's things like that. I watch the one movie that I watch and I learn a lot from, and because you could watch it over and over and learn, is The Godfather. Right. There's, I love the lighting in it and the drama part of it. And there's certain techniques and things that they've done, but that's a different style of movie. But when we're talking about true adrenaline and emotion, it's those couple of movies that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
We're getting the Top Gun and Maverick and the Rocky movies and so on. The Rocky movies, not the ones where he's running around the forest and talking
Rambo.
No, and it's the adrenaline after the fights and what he says, and when he calls out, he calls out to his family or his wife and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank my kid that's sitting at home. Those one lines after winning or losing and all the adrenaline and the effort he's put in. Things like that.
Good one. All right, last question before we close off, and I want to say thank you for coming on board. This has been an excellent discussion. I know you were asking for questions beforehand, and I said, well, a lot of questions arrive spontaneously, and that's exactly what happened. I really had no clue where we were going. I had no clue.
You were making me nervous about that, thinking, okay, am I going to have the right answer?
Well, I knew you'd be fine. I'm a fellow Torontonian / Bramptonian too. I'm from the Toronto Brampton area too, so I knew you'd be fine.
Okay, thank you.
No, it was amazing, and the questions literally just when we started, they just popped into my head. So it's kind of weird the way that works. It's almost like there's a universal flow. So all right, your eternity is near. You got one last meal. Your favorite meal of all meals. What is it?
Oh wow!
I know John would go with poutine.
No.
I'm just teasing.
Might be a nice steak with roasted potatoes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a peppercorn steak.
Yeah.
Nice. Everybody still loves steak,
I'm not much. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I don't. But, it's like that. That's that special occasion type. Do it once in a while. You should be okay.
Yeah. All right, Sam, thank you very, very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And
I loved it.
It's been a wealth of information. I really appreciate you coming on board and sharing your information, your knowledge, and a lifetime of experiences with us. And it was a really good summary. And anybody who's watching in or watching the replay, and I mean, if you're serious about photography, man, just re-listen to
Exactly.
this and really understand what it is.
Maybe a
Coming
year or
from
two from now, he'll come back on and
Yeah.
share some more with us.
Absolutely. I've got a lot of different things that I'm working on right now that,
Yeah.
I'm redoing all the marketing and websites. I'm redoing, I'm going to be doing a lot of Europe trips to do different projects, probably some
Mhm.
Italian, I got a thing about Italy, so I'm going to do some Italian workshops along
Uh-huh.
with some here and, some educational purpose setups and things like that
Yeah.
and
It's good.
consulting. And I got a couple of things that I'm working on.
You're not retiring anytime soon.
Oh, not at all.
And you speak Italian then?
Yes, I do.
Nice. So that helps.
Yes.
Cool.
It's
How's
funny,
your brother
Rob.
Leo?
Sorry?
How's your brother Leo doing?
He's doing great.
Tell
Yeah.
him I said hi. It's
Okay.
been a long time.
Yeah, he's doing great. Give him a call.
Last time I saw him was in 2014 when the Custom Color sponsored our Inferno in Toronto out by the airport. And we had a really nice sized crowd there. And
Oh, okay.
I was there at that one.
were you there? Yeah, that's
I was
right.
2011 and 2014 or the two I went to.
Right.
It was at the Holiday Inn by Airport Road, I think.
By the airport. Well, I did, I think the following year.
You were the following year at a
Yes.
different hotel.
Yes.
I always remembered when you were there because your content was so good. It was so timeless. And, you listen to that and you listen to what you're saying in today's conversation and you think, I hope people understand this. This is pure gold. So,
Well,
thanks
you know
again.
what? I think at the end of the day, the secret to everything is to be able to, if you're going to be in the business as long as I have,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in this business for a very long time, you have to keep reinventing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I don't like is one thing that I do, and I seem to do it, and I don't know why, is that I go, and then I thought, okay, need a break, and I stop. Right. So I
Right.
slow the whole thing down. Then a couple of years later, I'm about to take off again, and I'm going to. And so I'd make a couple phone calls, and I tell you, I remember the when I did my comeback to my lecturing because I stopped it around 2000, and I decided to come back around 2008, and I called some of my contacts in the U.S. and I said, okay, I'm ready to come back, and they said, everything is different now. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come back. I don't know what to
Oh,
do.
really?
And I proved them wrong
Mm-hmm.
because within 2 years it was like straight up. So
Straight up.
it's about reinventing yourself. And there's other areas like right now, there's different things. And I got approached again the same way. I don't know. Things have changed. So I kind of just let it go and I just do my thing and I just go. So reinvent, go, and the fundamentals don't change.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The look may change, but the fundamentals don't change. And I learned that right from the very beginning when I started entering places like PPOA and PPOC. And their look was completely different at the time. And here I come, a younger person. But the one thing that I had to follow was there was a certain fundamental that you had to follow.
Mm-hmm.
But the look didn't make a difference. The look was yours.
Yeah.
But
Right.
as long as you follow the fundamentals, they couldn't get you.
Yeah.
Right? It had to work. They said, well, are the highlights there? Yeah. Is there details in the shadows? Yes. Is the light pattern working? Yes. What about the composition? Is working? Where's your impact point? Right there. Well, there's nothing to talk about.
Keep it simple, stupid.
That's it. So, it worked and it's still working. I mean, as long as the fundamentals are there, you can change your look and you just keep reinventing yourself. So, if you don't, you will go out. I mean, by the time you hit 50, you'll be done.
Uh-huh.
But as long as you can keep it together and stay fresh and just keep your fundamentals, you have the advantage.
Yeah. Some good points. Amazing. All right. Well, we'll let you get back to work and whatnot.
Perfect.
I hear the beach calling.
Listen, guys, it was definitely a pleasure.
Thank you.
Meeting up with you guys. This was fun.
Cool.
I enjoyed it. Glad
Cool.
to do it any other time on maybe a different topic if you want.
Sure.
Definitely.
Always available.
Good.
No, I
That's
thank
good to
you for
hear.
coming. I learned a lot, and I love how open and willing you are, because you get some people that are
Yeah.
at your stature and been doing it a long time, and they don't want to share anything with people because they're afraid of anything. But you're
Yeah.
very humbled, and I think that, and because you're very confident with yourself and your work, and I think that's what stands out. So
Yeah.
Well, I always believe to give back, and giving back puts you in a different status. Of course, for myself mentally, and
Uh-huh.
that was the whole thing. As it was back in the day when I was following other masters, and they were giving back. With the names that we've already, somebody else has to be doing the same thing, and
Yeah.
that's how we can progress.
Yeah. It's your turn to carry the torch.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I guess. I don't want to think about that yet.
Lots of time.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Sam. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon. Thank you, Johnny.
all right, thank you, Robbie.
Thank you
Go have
so
some
much.
time on the beach.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
guys.
See ya.
Take-